Hey everybody, it's your girl, Pretty Girl Tip, and we are here for another episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Fucking Ugly podcast. Let's get into it. This week's episode, you stayed loyal to someone who wasn't choosing you. And I know y'all often wonder how I come up with these titles. Mind your business. Mind your business is helping somebody, and I have a muse, so that's that. So let's get into it. All right, loyalty is a beautiful thing until it starts costing you your peace. There's a difference between standing by someone during hard times and standing by someone who keeps showing you that you are not a priority. And sometimes the hardest truth to accept is you stay loyal to someone who wasn't choosing you. They weren't fighting for the relationship like you were. They weren't showing up the way that you were. They weren't even investing the way that you were. But you stayed anyway. And today, we're talking about the why. All right, what does loyalty look like? It's simple. You are consistent. You are available. You are understanding. You are patient. You showed up. You answered calls. You stayed during difficult moments. You forgave things you said you would never forgive because you believe loyalty meant staying. Even when they were not consistent and they stopped trying and they kept disappointing you, you remained. You weren't just loyal to them, you were loyal to the relationship, loyal to the memories, loyal to the future that you had imagined. And that's what made it hard to leave. All right, y'all know how we do? We start with the good. Super easy. No whole handed needed. While loyalty isn't the problem, and I want to make this clear before we go any further, loyalty is not a weakness. Somewhere along the line, people started treating loyalty like a flaw. Like caring too much was embarrassing. Like staying committed makes you naive. But that's not true. The ability to stay committed to someone you care about is actually one of the most beautiful things a person can offer. Because loyalty means you care deeply. You value relationships. You don't run the moment things become difficult. You understand that real love requires effort. When you love someone, you show up. Just not when it's easy. Just not when it's convenient. You show up when life gets messy. You show up when life gets hard. You show up for those hard conversations. You show up when things need work. And in a world that we're living in today, where people leave at the first sight of discomfort, that is very something to be proud of. The world does not need less loyalty, it needs more of it. More people who keep their word, more people who value commitment, more people who understand that real relationships aren't built on convenience, it's built on consistency. But here's where the conversation gets uncomfortable, because the problem isn't your loyalty. The problem is where your loyalty is being invested. Because loyalty by itself isn't enough. You can give the person in your life the most loyalty in the world and still end up heartbroken if you're giving that loyalty to someone who isn't giving it back. And this is where so many people get stuck. They think, if I just stay loyal long enough, they will eventually appreciate me. If I keep showing up, they'll finally show up for me too. If I love them harder, they will love me better. But that's not how any of this works. Because loyalty is supposed to be shared. It's supposed to move in both directions. It is supposed to feel balanced. Because loyalty is a beautiful thing when it is mutual. But it's painful when it's one-sided. When it's mutual, you feel safe. You feel valued. You feel chosen. You feel seen. You know someone is protecting the relationship the same way that you are. Oh, but baby, when it's one-sided, you are exhausted. You become the only person carrying the weight, the only one compromising, the only one fighting for something that requires two people. And eventually, you start to realize something heartbreaking. You weren't being rewarded for your loyalty. You were being taken advantage of. You were taken for granted. And that is the difference. Real love values loyalty. The wrong person simply expects it. Never let someone's inability to appreciate your loyalty convince you that loyalty is the problem, because it isn't. The problem was never your capability to love, babe. The problem was giving that love to someone who was comfortable receiving it without ever matching it. Okay? Now we get to the bad. We ain't at the fucking ugly yet, just at the bad. So we're still here. Why loyalty turns into self-abandonment. This is where things get tricky, because loyalty starts out as something beautiful, but somewhere along the way it became something else, something heavier, something more painful, something that slowly cost you pieces of yourself. And at some point you stopped paying attention to that effort. You started measuring everything by your commitment. So you stopped asking yourself, why are they showing up for me? And then you start asking, how can I show up better for them? You told yourself, relationships take work. Nobody's perfect. Love requires patience. And honestly, those things are true. Healthy relationships do take work, and nobody is perfect. Patience matters. I don't have any patience. God did not give me that. He gave me patience the size of an ant. And that is the truth. But here's the truth nobody talks about. No amount of patience can make someone invest if they don't want to. No amount of understanding can create effort. And no amount of loyalty can force someone to value what they are receiving. But you kept giving more time, more energy, more understanding, more chances, more access, more grace, more benefit of the doubt. Yet every time they disappointed you, you explained it away. Every time they pulled back, you leaned in harder. Every time they failed to show up, you convinced yourself that they just needed more time. And slowly, without realizing it, you started carrying the entire relationship by yourself. You became the communicator. You became the peacemaker, the planner, the forgiver, the one holding everything together. And because you loved them, you thought that this was normal, like any human being. You thought that this is what commitment looked like. You thought this is what loyalty required. But real loyalty never is supposed to mean sacrificing yourself. Real loyalty was never supposed to mean carrying a relationship that another person keeps dropping. And instead of asking why they weren't showing up, you started asking yourself, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Am I expecting too much? Am I being too sensitive? Should I just be more understanding? You started turning their lack of effort into your own personal responsibility. You started treating their choices like it was your problem to solve. And that is where the self-abandonment begins. Because self-abandonment doesn't happen all at once. Again, it's gradual, it's subtle, it's choosing their comfort over your needs, their excuses over your standards, and their potential over your reality. You stopped listening to yourself because you were too busy trying to understand them. And every time your intuition spoke up, you silenced it. Every time your boundaries appeared, you moved them. Every time your needs surfaced, you minimized them. Until one day you looked up and you realized you had become more committed to keeping the relationship than you were protecting yourself. And that's the danger, because loyalty should never require you to lose yourself. Yet somehow, that's exactly what the fuck happened. You were loyal, but they were never choosing you in that same way. So now we get to the fucking ugly part of it. And I might have to hold your hand, because the truth changes everything. And now, here's the part where it hurts. The part that we've been avoiding, the part we've been explaining away, the part that we've been not trying to look directly into. You were loyal, you were committed, you were invested. You were committed to this person. You were committed to showing up, but they weren't choosing you. Not fully, and not consistently, and not in the way that you deserved. And that's the most painful thing to admit, because for the longest time you convinced yourself that effort and loyalty were the same thing. That if you stayed committed enough, they will eventually do the same. But loyalty and being chosen are not the same thing. Choosing someone looks like this. You prioritize them. You respect them. You protect the relationship that you're in. You show up consistently. You consider their feelings and you match their effort. Choosing someone means that they just don't enjoy your presence, they value it. I'm going to say it again, I'm going to hold your hands, both of them. Choosing someone means they don't just enjoy your presence, they value it. And somewhere, deep down, you knew the difference. You knew that you were the only one reaching. You knew you were the only one checking in. And you knew you were the only one fighting for this relationship. You were always initiating. You were always understanding. You were always forgiving. You were always giving another chance. You were always carrying the emotional weight. And every time you felt that imbalance, you tried to compensate for it. You loved harder. You stayed longer. And you gave more. Because you thought that your loyalty can make up for their lack of effort, but it couldn't. Because relationships aren't built by one person. It is maintained by two. You were carrying a relationship that required two people. And eventually, you become exhausted. Not because you stopped caring. No. But because you were caring enough for the both of you. The text felt forced. The conversations felt different. The effort felt one-sided. And every day you were trying to say something that they weren't even trying to protect. Because loyalty cannot survive where effort is absent. Eventually, even the strongest person gets tired. Even the most patient person reaches their limit. Even the most loyal person starts to realize they deserve fucking more. So the mirror moment. This is our self-reflection. And this what comes into realization. The one thing that changes everything, the one thing that keeps you awake at night, the one that hurts more than the breakup itself. The ugliest realization is you kept choosing them while they were choosing themselves. I'm going to say that again for the folks in my nosebleed section so you can hear me loud and clear. The ugliest realization is you kept choosing them while they kept choosing themselves. You kept choosing them every single time. Even when it hurted, even when it was unfair, even when you felt unseen, while they continue to choose convenience, choose comfort, choose themselves over and over and over again. And suddenly, everything becomes clear. The imbalance, the exhaustion, the disappointment, the heartbreak, because it was never about whether you were enough, because you were. It was never about whether you loved hard enough, because you did. It was about the fact that the one person who was fully invested and the other person who wasn't. And that fucking hurts. But it's also very freeing, because for the first time, you're no longer blaming yourself. You're no longer trying to figure out what could have been done differently. You are no longer responsible for a relationship that could require two people. Because once you have accepted the truth, you stop chasing explanations. You start choosing yourself, and that's where the healing begins. All right. We didn't do all this. I'll come back of all of this. What loyalty should look like now. Here is where healing teaches us, and it teaches you. It teaches us that loyalty is still very beautiful. Commitment is still beautiful. Showing up for people is still beautiful, but not at the expense of yourself. Because somewhere along the way, many of us learned a dangerous lesson. We learned that loyalty meant staying no matter what. Staying through disrespect. Staying through inconsistency. Staying through emotional neglect. And staying through situations that slowly broke us. But that's not loyalty. That is self-abandonment. And healing helps you understand the difference. Loyalty should never require betraying yourself, ignoring your needs, accepting disrespect, settling for inconsistency, constantly proving your worth, and carrying a relationship alone. That is what loyalty should never require. Because the moment your loyalty starts costing you your peace, it's the time and a place now to reevaluate where it's being invested. For a long time, you thought through strength looked like staying. Now you understand sometimes strength looks like leaving. I will say, as my mini tip talk, strength in leaving is strength. I know that don't make no sense, but hear me out. Most people do stay in relationships because they are scared to leave. Scared of the what if, scared of all these things. But the strongest person is the one who leaves and knows what's out there, which you really don't know what's out there because you just don't know. But to have the strength to leave something that you've been in, to go somewhere that you don't know what the outcome is going to be, that takes strength. I want you guys to know that, because when I left, that was strength, because I really left my marriage with nothing and did not know A, B, C, or D. But the strength of leaving and the peace that came with it was something that I can only imagine for someone who hasn't been through it. A nice ice cream on a warm day. Yeah, that's what it was. A nice, I can't really say because I don't know if my mom's listening to this podcast, but if you're an adult and you do adult activities, you know exactly what I mean. It's just a peace. It's a release. That's what it is. It is a release. Okay, let me get back to it. Sometimes strength looks like walking away from someone you love because they refuse to love you correctly. Sometimes strength looks like choosing your peace over your attachment. And sometimes strength looks like finally accepting what we known all along. And that is where the shift happens. So you start to ask yourself, how can I make this work? You just stop. You just stop asking yourself that. You start asking, why am I working this hard for someone who isn't even meeting me halfway? That's growth. That is healing. That is self-respect. Because real loyalty says, I can love you deeply and still walk away when I know I'm not being valued. I'm going to say that again for everybody in my nosebleeds and everybody in the back. Because real loyalty says, I can love you deeply and I can still walk away when I'm not being valued. Because love and access are not the same thing. Just because someone loves you doesn't mean they automatically get unlimited access to your heart. The healed version of you understands that loyalty must be earned, not demanded, not expected, but earned. And here's the lesson that changes everything. The lesson isn't stop being loyal. The world doesn't need less loyalty. The world needs loyalty directed towards people who deserve it. Stop giving loyalty to people who haven't earned it. Stop giving unlimited grace to people who give minimum effort. Stop giving commitment to people who won't commit. Stop giving your best to people who treat you like you're ordinary. Because one day you will meet someone who doesn't just receive your loyalty, they return it, they protect it, and they appreciate it, and they match it. And that is the truth. The person protects it, the person appreciates it, and the person matches it. And when this happens, you finally understand something that took years to learn. The right person won't make your loyalty feel like a burden. They're treated like the gift that it is. And that is the comeback. Not becoming harder, not becoming colder, not loving less. The comeback is learning who deserves your love in the first place. And once you learn that, you stop chasing, you stop settling, you stop proving, and you finally start choosing yourself. Okay, favorite time of the week, red flag of the week. You guys ready? Okay, stop bragging about how long you stayed. Some people aren't impressed by your loyalty. They are impressed by how much disrespect you will tolerate. I'm gonna let that sink in for the red flag of the week. But closing for our Good, Bad, and the Fucking Ugly podcast. Just remember this. You stayed loyal to someone who wasn't choosing you. And maybe for a long time you thought that made you strong. But strength isn't staying where you're unappreciated. Strength is recognizing when your loyalty is being taken for granted and having the courage to leave. Because love shouldn't feel like you're consistently proving your worth. The right person won't make you fight for a place in their life. They'll make room for you in it. Okay, guys, this is the episode of the Good, the Bad, and the Fucking Ugly podcast. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to make sure you check me out on all my social media platforms. Make sure you check me out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I'm there all the time. I'm posting daily content for you guys. A little bit behind the scenes is going to be coming up next week. How I do this process, because it is a process, but I do love it and I do appreciate everyone for listening. Okay, I'll talk to you guys next week. Love you. Bye.